Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt that sudden chill of uncertainty, like standing on the edge of a cliff with the next step obscured by a thick fog? Life often brings us to these moments when we're unsure of what's next. It's natural to feel fear, to hesitate, and even to question. But here's a thought to ponder: what if these moments, these unknowns, are precisely where God's work begins? As we look back on our lives, we can see moments that didn't make sense then, but over time, we've come to realize they led us to something bigger and more beautiful than we could have imagined. Today, we'll journey together, exploring the mystery of faith, the beauty of trusting in God's plan, and why the unknown isn't as scary as it seems when we remember who holds the map. Let's dive into this journey of trust, knowing that while we may not see the full picture now, God is at work and His plan is perfect. Faith in its truest form is trust without the benefit of proof. It's not simply a feeling or an idea. It's an action, a leap, often without any visible net. The Bible tells us faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. When God calls us to have faith, He's inviting us into a relationship that goes beyond what we can understand or control. Imagine a child holding their parent's hand in a crowded, unfamiliar place. That child may not know where they're going, but they have peace because they trust who is leading them. That's the kind of faith we're called to. A trust that doesn't rely on what we see, but on the character of the one who is guiding us. You might be going through a season of life where everything feels uncertain. Maybe you're battling a storm of health issues, struggling with finances, or questioning your purpose. It's in these very times of not knowing that we're invited to lean in, not pull away. God never promised that we'd see every twist and turn advance, but He did promise that He'd walk through every valley with us. He promised that even if we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we don't have to fear, for He is with us. In this season of mystery, remember that God's plan is not just for our comfort, but for our growth, for our faith, and ultimately for His glory. The unknown becomes less terrifying when we start to believe that we're not journeying through it alone. One of the hardest things we're called to do in life is to let go of control. For most of us, control feels like safety. It feels like power. But the truth is, control is often just an illusion. We think we have a grip on our lives, our plans, our future, but deep down we know that so much is out of our hands. This realization is both humbling and freeing because it leads us to a greater dependence on God. When we talk about embracing the unknown, we're talking about surrender. Surrender doesn't mean giving up, it means giving over. It's about releasing our limited view, our personal agenda, and trusting that God sees the full story. Proverbs 35:6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight." Here's the beauty of surrender: when we let go, we make room for God to work in ways we couldn't even imagine. We live in a world that celebrates planning, mapping out every step, and being in control of our destiny. But God's way is different. He calls us to a life that isn't always predictable, where faith becomes our compass instead of certainty. When we give up the illusion of control, we stop relying on our limited power and start experiencing the infinite power of God. Think about the times when you were truly at peace. Was it when you had everything figured out? Or was it when you finally let go and allowed God to take the lead? Surrendering to God's will doesn't mean we sit back passively. It means we actively choose to trust Him, to believe that in the things we don't understand are part of His perfect plan. So as we continue to walk in faith, let's remember we don't have to have all the answers. We only need to trust the one who does. When we think of God's plan, we often imagine it as a grand, crystal clear blueprint. But more often than not, God reveals His plan piece by piece. Each step, even if it feels small or insignificant, is a building block, a necessary part of a bigger picture we not yet see. Take a moment and think about the times in your life that felt like detours. Maybe it was a job that didn't seem to align with your dreams, a relationship that ended unexpectedly, or a season of waiting. But what if those moments weren't interruptions? What if they were vital stops along the journey God has laid out for you? God uses every step, every moment, and every season to mold us and to bring us closer to His purpose. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Even when we don't understand His timing or His ways, we can rest in the promise that He is working all things together for our good. The story of Joseph in the Bible is a powerful example. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and wrongly imprisoned. At any moment, he could have given up, thinking that God had abandoned him. But every painful step had a purpose. Eventually, Joseph to a position where he saved an entire nation from famine. When we look at his life, we see a story where God's hand was guiding him even in the darkest moments. In our own lives, we may not always get a Joseph ending, where everything is clear and resolved in this lifetime. But if we trust that each step has meaning, that each challenge is refining us, we begin to see the beauty in the journey itself. We start to believe that God is using every experience, every delay, and every detour to shape us into people who reflect His love and strength. As we embrace the unknown, we can find peace in the knowledge that our lives are part of a greater story, one that God is writing with love and wisdom beyond our understanding. Every step matters, even the ones that seem uncertain. A courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. When we face the unknown, it's natural to feel fear tugging at our hearts, whispering doubts and questions. But here's the truth: courage and faith walk hand in hand. In the moments when life feels uncertain, faith gives us the courage to step forward, to say, "I don't know what's next, but I trust the one who does." In the Bible, we see countless examples of individuals who faced overwhelming odds yet chose to trust in God's plan. Think of Moses standing before the Red Sea with an army behind him, or David facing Goliath with nothing but a sling and a stone. These weren't people who knew exactly what was going to happen. They were people who trusted in a God who had never failed them before. And because of their trust, they stepped forward with courage. God is calling each of us to that same kind of courage. In our own lives, courage might look different. It might mean starting a new career, ending a toxic relationship, moving to a new place, or simply waking up each day and choosing to keep going when life feels heavy. Whatever the step, God is walking with us, giving us strength when we feel weak. When we choose courage, when we decide to trust, we're not just moving forward for ourselves. We're setting an example for others. Our faith, our courage in the face of the unknown, becomes a beacon, showing others that there's a strength beyond our own, a strength that only God can provide. A courage doesn't mean that we won't face storms, but it does mean that we'll have the peace to endure them, knowing we're anchored in something unshakable. So, as you face your own unknowns, remember, God has already gone before you. He's prepared the way, and He's waiting on the other side. All He asks is that you take that step, trust in His power, and let Him lead. As we stand together at the edge of the unknown, remember this: God's plan for you is not random. It's purposeful, loving, and designed for your ultimate good. Even in the seasons that feel dark or confusing, He's working behind the scenes, orchestrating everything according to His perfect wisdom. You may not see the whole path, but you're not meant to. God's plan unfolds as you move forward, one step of faith at a time. So as you embrace the unknown, hold on to this truth, and you're not alone, and you're not without purpose. Trust that God is guiding you, and that in His hands, you're exactly where you're meant to be. If this message spoke to you, if it gave you strength to face your own journey, consider subscribing to this channel. Join this community as we continue exploring life's challenges with faith and courage. Hit that subscribe button, like, and share this video to spread hope. Remember, together we can face the unknown with confidence, trusting in God's perfect plan.